So today is the test review day or whatever, right? I want to start here by talking a little bit about the test format and give you guys some ideas of things to put on your note card. So we'll start there. So the test format, we have one question. We'll ask you to give me the values for A, C, H, and K, and then to describe the transformation words. So for sure I would want that that general form for sine and cosine and tangent, etc. Right, like we definitely want that on there. You need to have that list of transformations, right? Like I think that stuff was all at the start of worksheet 1 also, right? You'd want all that stuff on there, unless you have it memorized. Good one, Mr. Kulik. So I'd want that on there. It says 2 questions where I give the value, or ask you to give the values for A, C, H, and K, and then to give me the amplitude, midline, period, frequency. So I would definitely want those formulas, right? Right, you want that stuff. Construct a sinus. One question where I ask you to construct a sinusoid from a description, and one where I ask you to construct the sinusoid from a graph. So there, with these ones, these are more, what are we using to do these kinds of problems? Really just using this stuff again, right? So it's not much new. Examples would probably be helpful for those guys though, right? Especially with a little bit of narrative, like explaining what it is you're doing to yourself. And then we have 3 questions where I ask you to graph the sine, cosine, and tangent function. The key points you need will be given to you, so you don't need to write those down. But what do you want for that? I would want to definitely make sure I have that transformation map so that I can do that as well. Is that everybody okay with that? I want to just take a minute here and point out to you that basically all of these problems, but in particular these 3, really, really require you to be able to look at an equation and pull off the values for A, C, H, and K. If you cannot do that, there'll be problems all over, basically all of the problems. That is a fundamental skill, just to rehash. Let's say we have something like this. What's my value for A? -3. Now, before I find my values for C and H, what should I do? I need to factor this in here, right? So how do I factor 2x plus 6? Yeah, we take the 2 out, and we're left with x plus 3, right? All right. Now note here that the 2 is 1 over C, not C. So what is the value for just C? 1/2, right? That coefficient is always the reciprocal of C. Everybody's okay with that? And the other place that I always get you guys, what's the value for H here? -3. Remember, the H is always the opposite sign that it looks like in the problem. And then the K is just -7. If I were you, if you're somebody that consistently makes mistakes with your C's and H's, which is, you know, probably 1/3 to 1/2 of us have issues doing this based on the things that I've seen from you guys on your homework quiz and stuff, is I would include an example reminding myself that I need to check to do that. You know what I mean? So make a note for yourself, put it on your card, include an example. Every problem, if I need values for A, C, H, and K, remember to do this. Be like, hey, self, did you do this? Stop what you're doing and do this first. You know what I mean, guys? So these are for you. You can put anything on them. I've talked about the stuff that I would include minimally, and then probably anything other space I'd fill out with examples of things. But I definitely want to have like those formulas and that information that we just talked about on there. Unless you think you have it memorized, which good luck to you. I mean, I have it memorized, but you know, been basically doing the same thing for 15 years. So at some point you just have to memorize it. It's happened by accident. Any questions about the test format or any of that? Okay, typically we're asking for the note cards by the end of class. If that becomes a problem, you can get them in before first hour tomorrow at the absolute latest, because if I pass out tests second hour, if I don't have it by then, you cannot use your note card. Okay? Typically I would like them by the end of the hour. Some of us are a little pokey on that or like to be like super careful, which is fine. But I would need them before the start of second hour tomorrow at the absolute latest, or I will not let you use it. Okay? Everybody's cool? Clear? Okay? It's just a half sheet is what I mean by note card. You know what I meant though, right? Maybe you didn't because she asked for one, but it's always going to be a half sheet. I'm going to say note card because half the time you guys say note card. Now you got me saying note card. I blame you guys because it doesn't mean I have to blame myself when it's really my own fault. The other thing I wanted to make mention of was it sounded like people had some delta math problems.
I think it was the third section. I figured it out, but
yeah. I got several emails from people about it. This thing, right? No, not this one. This one?
Yeah, I can't remember if it was the second or the third one. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the idea. All right. This is the idea. So first thing I want to do is assign some scales to the axes that I'm going to be graphing on. If I look at this function, I notice the midline is at -15 and the amplitude is 10. So it needs to go all the way down to -25, the y-axis, and be able to go up to -5. Seems like going by 5s would be a reasonable idea there. Since I have 10 tick marks, that'll give me plenty of space. To get the x-axis label, what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the period. Remember, the period is 2 pi times c. No, I just wanted, people asked about delta math. I wanted to run through how to do this. The C in this case is 5/3, right? The reciprocal. So that gives me 10 pi over 3. And then for my x scale, I'm going to divide that by 4. Why am I dividing it by 4? Because when I graph one of these sinusoids, there's like 4 sections that I graph, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're all equally spaced apart. If I take the period and divide by 4, that means just every tick mark is where the next point's going to go. So it just makes it convenient for me. Dividing by 4 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So my x scale that I'm going to choose is going to be 5 pi over 6. So the period was 10 pi over 3, but I divided that by 4 to get my x scale. So 5 pi over 6. 5 pi divide by 6. Okay. Set that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll and make one tick mark, that 5 pi over 6. And now I'm going to start plotting. So this is a sine function. The first point on a sine function that I want to graph is going to be the midline point. That occurs at h comma k. So negative 5 pi over 6, comma negative 15. So I'm going to go 1 unit left, and then 3 units down. So far, so good. That's the hardest piece. Once you have your first point, it's easy from there. So the pattern for sine, we go to maximum next. So I'm just going to go 1 unit to the right, and then up 10. So 1 over 2 up. And then we go back to the midline point. So I'm going to go 1 over 2 down. Then we're going to go to the minimum, 1 over 2 down again. And then back to the midline, 1 over 2 up. And then if I hit submit answer, that's good. So the hardest part is getting everything set up, and then from there it's just going right 1 unit and then up or down the amplitude. If it's a cosine function, how does that change? Not much. So we'd start the same way. So again, my midline's at negative 12. My amplitude is 20, so I'm going to have to go down to negative 32 and up to positive 8. I don't know, going by 4 seems about right. We'll do that again for the period. I know is 2 pi times the absolute value of, was that 8 over pi, was it? I forget already now. Pi over 8. So it's going to be, when I flip it, it's going to be 8 over pi. So 16, that's my period. But I'm going to divide that by 4 to get my x scale. So just x scale of 4. Set that. Drag my tick mark so that it's 1 tick mark. And now this is cosine. Cosine starts at a maximum. So I'm going to go right 12 units. And then from the midline at negative 12, I'm going to be going up 20 units. So I'm starting at 12, 8. So 1 is 4, 8, 12, 4, 8. From cosine, after we've done the maximum, we go back to the midline. So I'm going 1 unit to the right and then down to negative 12. and doing 1 unit to the right, and then down another 20, so down to negative 32, going to the minimum, and then 1 unit right back up to the midline, and 1 unit right back to the maximum. And that should do. So that's the idea on that delta math section, is you just want to get if you get the Y scale and the X scale set, and you remember to move that X scale so it's 1 tick mark, you're just you're assigning that first point, and then you're just going right 1 unit and then up or down in amplitude, depending on which function you're doing. And you just keep doing that. Right 1 unit, up or down in amplitude. And it should be relatively easy. It's kind of a weird format for them. Yeah, that's the dealio. So that's on the video for today. If you need help finishing your delta math, go back and you can watch me do that again. Is that cool? Helpful? Maybe.